Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di.
And I'm Daughter.
And this is episode 3 of the Volume by Volume podcast. Today we will be sharing our thoughts with you on volumes 5 and 6 of Assassination Classroom by Yusei Matsui. This one is published by Viz, rated older teen, and we are reading this as part of the Monochrome Manga Club series read. The Monochrome Manga Club is an in-real-life manga club that we host at a local Barnes & Noble, where we read 2 first-in-a-series selections, and we're currently doing 2 full series reads. This series is one of those full series reads. So we have been gone for a little while. Work has been quite busy for me, and I just have not had a chance to sit down and record, so we are getting this to you pretty late in the month, almost around the time where we are going to be reading the next 2 volumes. So you should have 2 episodes rather close to each other this time around. But yeah, we read these 2 volumes. As we mentioned before, we did watch most of the anime adaptation.
And I have read through this completely once through.
I did not read past volume 1 the first time we read this through, so most of this is new material for me as far as reading from the manga. And when we had watched the anime adaptation, it's been several years since then. So it still feels like a really fresh experience. This is going to be a more spoilery type of discussion. So just know that going in. Definitely wanted to make sure we said that up front. And so, yeah. That should be it for the opening blurbs. And so let's get into our thoughts on volumes 5 and 6. Daughter and I are reading this one on the Shonen Jump app, so we don't have physical copies to flip through, just so that you know. But if you wanted to join in, you can definitely join us by reading from the Shonen Jump app if you have a subscription. So, volumes 5 and 6. I really like the color of volume 6. It is one of my favorite colors. And we had some interesting things happen in these volumes. We got the ending part of the baseball game, which I really enjoyed. I especially enjoyed how the kids from Class 3E kind of took what was being served to them by the other classes and turned it around on them where they couldn't complain about what they were doing to them. So I really enjoyed that. Principal even thought that was well played. I am enjoying seeing how these kids are kind of blocking what the principal is trying to do to them and being very smart about it.
And I feel like I talk about this a lot, but I think a lot of it is fueled by, Koto Sensei's influence on them. Just kind of like the way that he teaches them, his unique outlook on various things helps them look at a picture in a different view, I guess you could say, which helps fuel their shenanigans, I guess I'll say.
There's definitely one thing about how Koro Sensei teaches, though, because he does make things fun. And in return, it kind of helps the kids retain more and get a better picture of what they're trying to learn because he puts that fun element in. I think that really helps.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because we know that for some students, they really did struggle with that only one type of learning through the main campus. So being exposed to the unique, different, or maybe creative ways of learning has definitely given growth to the students in many different fields.
I agree. And so really enjoyed that baseball game. I think we also had a scene where one of the students was being manipulated by a student from one of the other classes. Very uncomfortable situation there. And, I felt really bad that she felt like she had to continue to provide this girl with help because she was basically being blackmailed.
Mm-hmm. I guess you could say that's also part of the main campus's influence. Thinking that they're the best and all of that.
And that they deserve for Class 3E to basically serve them. That's kind of like the feeling I get is like the upper classes, or the other classes, I should say, really, really feel like Class 3E is below them, and that they are there to serve their purposes, to help them be better, and that it's okay to do that.
Yes, because it's kind of like the principal is saying you have to be the best, and you have to, I guess, use whatever is necessary. And he's kind of like allowing the main campus to treat 3E like stepping stones to greatness, I guess. Which isn't nice.
No, it's not. But we're definitely seeing, these kids from Class 3E be better, not only as people, but, striving for the betterness of themselves, doing better in their classes as far as what they're learning, and finding creative ways to get out of the situations they're in.
And in addition, I guess you could say finding themselves as well.
True. I really enjoyed how, Koro Sensei stepped in and helped her out with the situation that she was having. And a bunch of the other students got in on it as well. It wasn't just her working through this on her own. She got help from other classmates and comrades. And I thought that was really nice.
Indeed. 3E shows camaraderie versus the survival of the fittest mentality of the main campus.
Yeah, the main campus, students are very segregated. You have their little cliques, and you can see it with just the few students that we've been introduced to. I think we'll touch a little bit more on that once we get to another situation that happened, I think, in Volume 6. But I do want to touch on the visit from Koro Sensei's brother. We got another visit from Koro Sensei's quote-unquote brother in these volumes. He came back to try to take Koro Sensei out again and got his butt served to him. So he leaves again. But, Koro Sensei, even though he's, actively trying to fight this guy off, and he's having a little bit of a difficult time in this particular situation, he invites the guy to come back afterwards. Come back to class.
It's part of Koro Sensei's character, I think. And he really embraces the role of a teacher in completion, I guess. He's I guess you could say inviting Itona to partake in the so-called killing game that the students have to play in order to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Itona may have an advantage because he has tentacles like Koro Sensei, he's also showing that yeah, you may have some better skills than my students, but I can try to beat you up again.
And he still has some of the same weaknesses that Koro Sensei has as well, which kind of doesn't serve him either. So, we definitely saw that he tried to use something to his advantage, which ended up being a disadvantage for himself when he ended up getting stuck in the same situation. So I am enjoying, watching how things are evolving. Even with Itona, he takes what he's learned from that fight, goes back in his guardian or whoever that guy is, tweaks things, teaches them things, and then comes back and tries again. And it's definitely something that happens a lot in this series, even up to this point where if you fail, try again. It's kind of a message that's being, I guess, taught in these volumes, because you're not only seeing it with the students and them failing to kill Koro Sensei, obviously it's not an easy job, so try and try again, right? Until you succeed. On the flip side of that, though, that whole situation was brought on because one of the students held hands with Itana and his guardian or whatever, and basically put his classmates in danger. And so we're getting to see, him realize that his actions had hurt others, put others in danger. And we saw another side to him. He actually cared about what happened to these kids, even though in previous volumes he was very nonchalant. He was even kind of grumpy, didn't want to be a quote unquote team player. And here we are now where he's realized that he's done something harmful and joins in and helps out and tries to rectify the situation. So he is now turning a new leaf and becoming a part of the class, and I enjoyed that. One thing I didn't enjoy, though, was the references to the more heavier girl in their class and how they were talking about, if she, is so heavy, she'll break the branch and fall into the river or whatever water thing was a pond, a river, something. I didn't enjoy those snide comments. And I did enjoy, though, her beating up people after the fact because she heard them say that about her. So good for her.
I don't recall her having much of a spotlight in the anime when we watched it. So being exposed to her character a little more in the manga is very fresh.
I think we are definitely seeing a lot more of the classmates in the manga than even I recall seeing in the anime. But again, it's been several years since I've watched the anime, and I had only watched it that one time and never completed it. So just from memory, it feels like I'm getting to know more of the students than when I had watched it the first time or the only time. And we're definitely getting to see more of Nagisa's talents starting to pick up and grow. And I think this is where, for me, there was a big kind of divide, because what sticks out in my memory from when I watched the anime all those years ago was how Nagisa was such a prominent character. But up until this point, up until this volume, he really has just been one of the classmates and not really spotlighted. Whereas I feel in the anime, there's definitely a spotlight on him, and we get to know him pretty well and pretty early. At least that's what I remember. But I guess because I feel like one of the themes that is going along with the story is how he in particular is suited to this type of work as far as the critical thinking and the whole assassination plan and plot, that he's kind of the most suited to that. And we're getting to see that more as of these volumes, and I presume as we continue along with the series.
Yeah, the thing about Nagisa is that from the first volume, first chapters, first episode, he was kind of like a mob character. And because Terasaka had treated him as kind of like
one of his minions.
Yeah, like a minion. We didn't really think that he had potential to partake in assassinating Koro Sensei.
Well, and then if you look at Nagisa, even his visuals make him look very innocent.
So it's kind of like him blending into the crowd and not disclosing his weapon until it's too late. So it's showing his great potential, yeah. And that scene where he has to fight Karasuma's colleague that really showcased how he has learned everything through Koro Sensei, Karasuma Sensei, and it was down to one strike, right?
It's something like that.
And he just managed to do it like effortlessly. So yeah, I think it is showing how he has the great potential to become an assassin. He might grow the fastest out of everyone else.
You know, people are starting to notice that, you know, his talents may be in this particular area. They're going to help nurture it. I mean, it's not only beneficial to Nagisa, but it's beneficial to the whole cause of what's going on at the moment. The end game. Get rid of Koro Sensei.
And I guess you could say it helps some classmate rivalry. You know, seeing someone get ahead and, you know, trying to find something in your own arsenal to make yourself better. So I think it's kind of like a domino effect to help everyone in the long run.
One thing that I've kind of noticed throughout these volumes is how when the students see someone else, like, you know, get really close but still fail, they don't like take it out of them. They don't put them down for a failed attempt. They take that as okay, you know, he might have failed, but maybe if we try this. They try to build upon that. They put their own twists on it. And they all kind of like learn off of each other. They don't ever put each other down because of their failures. Whereas I feel like the other campus, they're definitely like people who are looking out for themselves only. They will use anybody's disadvantages to their own advantage and things like that. So we're seeing very different like dynamics even between the students and how they interact with one another. I just really like feel for class 3E, and I like rally behind them. I want them to kick the main campus's classes butt, which I'm hoping that we're going to see more of that in the next couple volumes, because these volumes left on a cliffhanger of our students getting ready for their next big exam. Which brings us to the new face that we were introduced to, President's son. He is just as terrible as his father. But it's not surprising. I mean, if you have a father that's like that, it is not surprising at all that his son would be that way.
And what makes it even funnier is that he's trying to get ahead of the president already. Trying to beat him already.
They're just playing games with each other too. And it's not fun and games either. Like, they're like really serious about the game that they're playing. And so it'll be interesting to see how the introduction of this character will play into the next testing, because he wasn't spotlighted before the first set of tests.
And I think he's like the best student.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like the number 1 student or something.
So it's a possibility that, you know, he'll be like a really big boss getting in 3E's way.
So definitely some serious things happening in these volumes, but lots of learning experiences. And then we had the little bit of comedic relief where Irina was getting Sharpie tattooed by the classmates. That was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
Well, it wasn't Sharpie. I'm sorry. It was henna.
Yes.
It's just because in the manga, because it's black and white, it looked black. And, you know, the lines and stuff looked like Sharpie. It was henna. And so, yeah. It's like the things that they had done, especially to her face. And then when she like wakes up and they're like, oh, if you just wipe it off real fast, it won't set. And she still, instead of doing that, goes after them instead and makes it so that that henna is able to like set further on her face. I'm like, dude, Do you really want all of that on your face? I mean, some of the stuff they did was really pretty. Like, the arm tattoos were very pretty. I mean, there were some that weren't, but there were a couple that were really nice. But I was more concerned about the henna setting on her face. Obviously, she wasn't that concerned about it.
But it is also showing how close the students feel to Irina. You know, being friendly enough to want to play and use shenanigans on her face.
But not only that, it does show, again, it brings you back to the fact that these are kids. I mean, they're intermediate school, or I guess you call them middle school, kids. They're still very young. And I had said this before, that with everything that's going on with the assassination attempts, sometimes it's hard to remember how young they actually are. So when you get scenes like this, where they're doing things that you would expect kids of their age to do, very mischievous and, you know, fun-loving and those types of things, it kind of brings you back and makes you remember, hey, you know, these are young kids that are being asked to do something pretty terrible for the sake of the world.
And it's kind of a way to keep their humanity in themselves by having all these fun and games, playing around in the pool, having all of these outings at a cafe or something. Like the social interactions that they're able to have outside of class or even after school is kind of like reminding them that, you know, even though they have to assassinate their teacher, they're not devoid of humanity.
I think the more that we read this story, it does make more and more sense to me why the class that was chosen to pull off this plot was aged down so much. Because I think if they had been any older, it probably would have been a lot more dangerous for society. Because with the younger kids, they can still kind of see it as fun and games. You know, even though they know how serious the situation is, they're not playing with real weapons. They still act like kids. And so they have that kind of grounding, where I think if the kids were older, they definitely would be more impressionable. I think they could be more violent, and it could lead them to being more violent as adults. And they might even, you know, be more out for themselves than more like the other campus students who, you know, are around the same age, but they still kind of don't act like our kids in 3E. They don't act like kids. They act more like people who are older than I feel like the kids in 3E are, even though they're supposedly close in age. But again, when you see class 3E by themselves, and then you see the classes on the other campus by themselves, I feel like they're, even just looking at the two classes, it feels like there's a difference in age just by looking at how they're drawn, how they act, but they're not really. They're not really. And I think if this plot had been given to those students instead, there would have been a massacre. And I don't think they would have been as successful. They might have even turned on each other. Because, like I said before, they really do look out for only themselves.
And I think the monetary reward would have blinded them even more, if you think about it. Because they have asked, the students of 3E have asked each other, oh, what would you do with the money? And a lot of people were like, oh, I don't really know. I agree with you that the age range of those in 3E in particular makes it a better outcome for the world in general. And especially just having Class 3E be the participants in this game rather than the main campus. Because of all of that you just said. For some reason, I was thinking that the students of the main campus might have caused great harm to society if they allowed the games to happen outside of campus. Because you don't really know what the president is thinking. He might have allowed it, and such a danger to even just the residential area alone it's very dangerous.
Yeah, and even with, just the main campus playing for pride, which is basically what's on the line at this point with each time that they come across Class 3E, they don't react well to that. And, when they lose, they don't take that well either.
And I wonder if it's just because they think that they're going to get kicked out.
They think they're better.
Well, yeah.
It's because they think they're better. So there's no way that Class 3E should be able to beat them in anything. So they put these blinders on, right? We don't see them. They don't exist, except they do. And they're going to one-up you.
But at least we know that there's at least one member of the main campus that doesn't really think that way.
Oh yeah, we did get introduced to one guy in these episodes in these volumes. I thought that was a nice scene as well. It definitely showed that not everybody on the main campus thinks the way that the other kids that we have been introduced to and we see often in these volumes thinks. And he was able to remain friends with, who was it? Sugino?
I think. It kind of got me thinking that it was kind of like sportsmanship. There we go.
Yes.
Kind of like a sportsmanship kind of mentality.
Well, and they both played the same sport anyway.
Yes, but he extended that to outside the baseball field and to the classrooms. So kind of, these interactions with 3E might be a changing point in some of the members of the main campus. Might not be a whole lot of people, but,
Oh, starting the infiltration of the main campus?
It would be nice. But I'm just thinking, because 3E has such a unique learning environment, and it's enabling them to change, themselves to become a person that they can see will do something in the future. It would helps those in the main campus potentially think, hey, this is actually what I want to do. This is how I want to portray myself to society. Maybe small changes like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, or at least I'm hoping, that the further along we go with these volumes, we're going to see more and more of other kids from the main campus actually, maybe changing their ways, taking the time to get to know some of these kids in Class 3E. And I guess that will just remain to be seen. As I mentioned earlier, we're definitely up for another testing period in these next volumes, I would think. And so we'll get to see the outcome of that and whatever's going on between the president and his son and whatever else happens in the next volume. So I think that's pretty much all the thoughts we have on volumes 5 and 6 today. Do you have any other thoughts, daughter?
No, but I am starting to think that maybe I would like to return to the anime soon.
Yeah, that might be something to do. But I don't know if I want to watch it before we finish reading.
Yeah. We might need to take a rain check on that until we finish.
On that note, though, we did start Delicious in Dungeon as our other series read for the Monochrome Manga Club. We haven't decided yet whether or not we are going to do volume by volumes for that series. If you're interested in a volume by volume for the Delicious in Dungeon volumes, let us know that down in the comments below. We're also thinking of maybe doing the volume by volume of Delicious in Dungeon in conjunction with their corresponding anime episodes and kind of doing a read a watch along and then do an episode for those volumes. So if you have thoughts on that, let us know that down in the comments below. But that will pretty much do it for us today. As you're listening to this, we both would have already read the next couple volumes, so we should be recording another one of these episodes for you soon. And that will wrap it up for us today. So let us know again down in the comments below if you'd like to see Delicious in Dungeon episodes or Delicious in Dungeon manga and anime episode talks like these down in the comments below. And until next time, we hope that you will continue to read Assassination Classroom with us volume by volume. Bye.